Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Jake C. Paulson podcast. I am your host, Jake C., and today we're going to be covering the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, Part 1. So we're going to be covering the first 7 laws that John C. Maxwell writes about in his book. And obviously you guys know that this podcast is all centered around entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal development. And so that is either in your business, with yourself, or in your community. And this book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, is a great book for those who have not read it. I've handed this book out. I don't even have a copy at the moment because I've handed them all out to people that I work with because I know the value of the laws in this book. And if you want to lead anything successfully, I think that this book is a must read for those people. He really just wrote it to help leaders all around the globe grow in their leadership. And the first time I read this book was a couple years back. It's very, very high ranking on my books list. I think it's like 50 or 60 books that I've read the past 3 years. And this is up there the past two and a half years, I think. 2023 is when I started it, and it's 2025. So, but this book is like in the 9s out of 10. Great book. I would recommend reading this book every year if you lead an organization. So this 3-part series is really going to be centered around leaders. If you're not a leader yet, but you aspire to be, this is a great one for you to listen to as well. And if you have no interest in leading anything, then that's okay. Check out other podcasts because this one ain't it. But I wanted to just jump right into it. Like I said, 3-part series. The first 7 I'm going to cover today. The number 1 law that he puts on there, number 1, it's called the law of the lid. He says leadership's ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. So your leadership ability is going to determine your level of effectiveness or your success. It acts like a lid on your potential. So your leadership ability acts like a lid on your potential. If your leadership skills rank at a 5, your effectiveness is never going to exceed that. He says to grow your impact, you must raise your leadership lid by continuously learning, developing, and improving. Oh my gosh, I feel like that's so crucial, so important. Developing yourself every single day. I think that's one thing that when leaders get into a quote unquote like title, like if you just get promoted and now you have a better title or a more influential title, if you're a great leader, you've gotten there before you've even gotten the title. Meaning that you've grown yourself so much in your character that the title just came with who you were. Now, for some people, it's the opposite. It's the fact that the title is more than what they are. Meaning that they haven't grown themselves. They haven't put a lot of time into developing themselves. And so that's the law of the lid. Now, if you really want to grow an organization and if you work with people like I do, then you have tons of people working with you, and you want to have, say, 100 people working with you, then you need to grow and develop yourself into the type of person that can handle a 100-person organization. You need to grow and develop yourself into the type of person that's going to be able to handle a $100 million a year company. If your company's only valued at 10 million or 1 million or 100,000, then obviously you're not the type of leader yet to lead a company that's bigger. So learn how to find the skills, learn how to build the skills, grow yourself. There's a quote that I heard one time. It says, "Don't let your gifts take you where your character can't sustain you." Don't let your gifts take you where your character can't sustain you. A highly skilled salesperson, 10 out of 10 in sales with poor leadership skills, 3 out of 10, let's say, they're going to struggle to build and lead a high performing organization. They're going to struggle. They're going to have a lot of failures. So grow your leadership skills. Now, I think that's one thing that I take a lot of pride in is developing myself, and that's why I made this podcast. So if you want to increase your impact, increase your leadership. Number 2, the law of influence. The true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Yes, Maxwell talks about this in all of his books and in all of his talks pretty much. He says it's not about titles, it's not about power, not about position. It's about how much influence you have over others. How much influence you have over others. People don't allow leaders People don't follow leaders because of their title. Like I said before, and I've said this in other podcasts before, you just because you have a title doesn't mean that a bunch of people are going to start following you. It's not how that works. You build up your image by doing those things that nobody wants to do, by building trust, and we'll talk a lot more about that. But the law of influence essentially states, to give you an example, a CEO with no real influence, they struggle to gain respect, while a low-level employee with strong influence can inspire a team and make things happen. I've seen this a bunch of times in the line of work that I'm in. With our sales organization, I've seen it time and time again where first-year salespeople, people that are 18, 19, 20 years old, they end up coming into the organization humble and really hardworking. And by the end of the summer, they have a lot more influence on the organization than the third-year salesperson, the fourth-year salesperson, people that are 5, 10 years older than them. I've seen a lot of times too. And I think that's really because they have a hungry and humble mindset. And if you ask a lot of employers, I just sat on a panel to an econ class here at a school, and three other employers just talked about all the skills that they want to see in candidates for their internship or their job, and they all talked about soft skills. It was an econ class. They deal with a lot of numbers. Yes, if you're good at numbers, you're going to be good at numbers. But if you're good with people, you're good at communicating, and you have that number background as well, not only can you see problems, but you can communicate the problem effectively. You can communicate what we can do and how to problem solve. That is where you're going to increase your personal wealth, how you view yourself in terms of wealth. It's if no one's following you, at the end of the day, if you look and nobody's behind you following you, you're not leading. So work on building influence. Number 3, the law of process. The law of process. Leadership develops daily and not in a day. Oh, this is so true. It's not a one-time event. It's a lifelong process. The best leaders commit to continuous growth, reading, learning from mentors, refining their skills, and practicing leadership in everyday situations. One of the examples he uses in the book is John Wooden. He didn't become great overnight. He studied, practiced, and refined their leadership over time. Legendary basketball coach John Wooden. I personally don't commit myself to titles. Like, if I want to be a CEO one day, I'm not going to say, okay, well, when I become a CEO, I'm committed until I become a CEO, or I'm committed until I become this title, or I'm committed until people view me as a pro. Like, I don't care about titles at all. I'm committed for X amount of years of just giving my best. I'm committed for X amount of years of doing the work that it takes to become that title. Because the title, I don't care about the title. I couldn't care less about the title. To me, it's what does the work take to become a good X, become a good Y, become a good title, whatever your title, insert title there. I just found that to hold incredible results for myself is when I commit to the work or I commit to doing my best in the work. Pretty much those two things for X amount of years, and then I can start to plan. For me, it's 2 years out, 5 years out. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm committed to 10 years out. I'm 23 years old. 33 looks a little bit different than it did 10 years ago and 13, So I'm still very young, and 10 years down the 10 years down the line, I'm sure I can start to plan that out in a couple of years. Leadership is built through consistent learning and consistent action over time. That's number 3. Number 4, the law of navigation. Leaders chart the course and guide their teams effectively. He says great leaders don't just see where they want to go. They also create a plan on how to get there and how to get there effectively, how to get through the challenges along the way. He says, use an example of a weak leader. They might take their team in circles, while a strong leader will assess challenges, risks, and opportunities before setting a clear direction. Now, I've struggled with this really early on in my leadership career and my leadership building, and I was terrible at this. I really couldn't see it. I really was not a visionary. I really couldn't see what you could become in a year. I really didn't have that much faith. And, people would throw out these wildly big numbers. And I'm like, I'm such a logical person that it's really hard for me to see things that haven't happened. I'm getting better at it. That's one thing that I'm learning. Actually, this year, I'm actually getting a lot better at it, leading my organization in 2024, 2025. But shoot, 3 years ago, I would be like, I would literally have, I don't know, just not a lot of faith that a lot of big numbers could come out of our organization. I tried to keep it as real as possible. And that's one thing that I've had to learn, how to balance being too optimistic and being way too pessimistic and not seeing the vision and not seeing how to get there. So, and I think it comes with experience. Now I'm a little bit more experienced and I'm just really scratching the surface on how to set clear goals with our organization in 2025. So exciting. Good leaders steer the ship. Great leaders chart the course. Number 5, the law of addition. True leaders add value to others. Leadership isn't about personal gain. It's about serving others. The best leaders look for ways to help their people grow, succeed, and reach their potential. Oh, this is so true. And I think automatically, without even knowing someone, people make assumptions about CEOs and about presidents and about people that are up the corporate ladder. I think people automatically make assumptions about those people. And most of the time, they're not good assumptions. I would say probably 90% of the time. 90% of the time, you see a CEO that drives a Maserati and lives in a huge house. Oh, they really don't care about their people. They just care about the profit. And that's a bunch of BS. It's not true. There's great, good, level-headed CEOs out there. Guess what? They focused on the impact and they focused on their people. That's why they're succeeding. Maybe take a look in the mirror for a second. Are you just jealous of what they have? Maybe you are. So that's the law of addition, actually adding value to people. A boss who focuses solely on profits is going to lose the loyalty of their team. Exactly. If you're focused on solely the profit of things, eventually it's going to catch up with you. And the people that you lead are going to see that. They can see through BS. People are people, A leader who invests in their people will build a culture of trust, growth, and long-term success. Invest in your people. Like I talked about at the beginning of this. There's some people that I don't even, that I don't even make money from. They're not even in my organization. And I still give them books because I know the value of growing yourself. And if they want to be a leader one day, I know that this is going to help them along the way because it's helped me. It's helped millions of other people. So why wouldn't it help them? Buy your people things. Take them out to trips. Take them out to actual experiences, things that they're going to remember. It doesn't matter if they decide to part ways with you down the road. It doesn't matter if, what really does matter is helping them hit their goals. So if parting ways in the future is going to help them to better their life, have a more structured lifestyle, and you have a hand in that, you should be proud of that rather than trying to get them back and make sure that they're with you for life. That's not being service-minded. Being service-minded is really listening, seeing things from other people's perspectives, and doing what's in the best interest of them, not what's in the best interest of you. So that's the law of addition. Add value every day. Don't just try to take. First, give, and you shall receive. People love givers. The book recommendation I have for that is called The Go-Giver. The more value you add to others, the stronger your leadership becomes. Number 6, the law of solid ground. Trust in the foundation of leadership. If people don't trust you, they won't follow you. Ironic. Leadership is built on character, integrity, and reliability, no talent or charisma. One example John uses in the book is a leader who constantly breaks promises or lacks integrity, they lose credibility. On the other hand, a leader who's honest and consistent earns loyalty and respect. Great leaders know the way, show the way, and even go the way. Now, going the way is going to build trust with the organization. Easy way to lose it. Don't let your words outdo your actions. Well, actually, easy way to gain it is don't let your words outdo your actions. Easy way to lose it would be to let your words outdo your actions. Meaning you talk the talk, but you don't walk the walk. One's going to build trust while the other takes trust. And word may even spread around your organization or other organizations that you are a type of person to keep information from people, that you are not as trustworthy as you say, that you say one thing but do a different thing. Okay, if your actions don't line up with your words, there, Stephen Covey says it best, you're taking from your trust bank account with people. You're taking from that. People a lot of times say that I'm a bit too blunt. And to be honest, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I would rather side on being overly honest than being underly honest, keeping information. I would rather side on the side of being overly honest, because then people know what they're getting. I'm a cut and dry person, and I would rather fail on that side. The law of respect. That's number 7. Number 7, the law of respect. People naturally follow leaders they respect. This ties right into the last one, the trust part. And respect isn't demanded, it's earned through competence, consistency, and character. The best leaders set the standard and inspire others to follow. One example John uses: when times get tough, weak leaders lose followers. Strong leaders gain loyalty because their people respect their guidance, their strength, and their decision making. Okay, people respect you if you make decisions. Indecisive people don't run the world. Decisive people run the world. When have you ever seen an indecisive person become the president of the United States? When have you ever seen an indecisive person lead a company? When have you ever seen an indecisive person? I don't even know, a great salesperson. But indecisive people are not the people that run companies and run businesses and lead groups. Decisive people do that. People who know how to make decisions. Now, one of the truest statements ever: if your employees or followers don't respect you, it's going to turn into a whirlwind of problems. So if you don't know how to make decisions, you can't toughen up and take your emotion out of it and just logically make a decision, people are going to respect you less. You'll find this in your organization one day. If it builds up enough, let's just say, let me paint you a picture. If, let's say you got, interviewed for this position, and the interview was kind of tough, and they were looking for a certain type of person, and they were like, you have to have this, 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 and this, and they kind of talked their own company up, as interviewers do. No interviewer says, yeah, you don't want to work here. We're not really driven. We don't have competitions. It's just not a very competitive environment. There's no room for growth. It's like, nobody ever says that as an interviewer. So they're going to talk their company up. They're going to talk their employees up. And now if you get the job and you go into the organization and you realize 2 months in that there was a policy that says you can't be late, but you've seen 2 or 3 people each meeting be a minute or 2 late. And you're sitting there going, well, obviously they're breaking the company policy. And my boss has not said one word about this, and it's been 2 to 3 months. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, my boss might be a little bit scared to bring this up. And do I want to be bossed around by someone that's a weaker leader than me? No. I have more influence in this. So what did I just do? I lost respect for my boss. That is what the law of respect is all about. If you don't call out that wrong behavior in a group, all of a sudden, when you don't call it out right away, have a private conversation. Don't just say it in the middle of everybody. Have a private conversation with that person. And if they don't change their actions, then hey, there's another spot for you in a different level. Hey, there might be another company for you looking for someone that shows up late to our meetings. Because if you don't take this serious, there's not going to be another spot for you, because everybody else here is taking it serious. So if you don't Maybe if you don't come on time, you can wait outside. I don't know, something like that. But you have to make it a point, you know. Otherwise, your followers are they're not gonna respect you. Yes. So if you want respect, lead by example, prove your leadership through action. Action is always going to come with respect. So those are the first 7: the law of the lid, law of influence, law of process, law of navigation, law of addition, law of solid ground, and law of respect. That's it for this part 1 of the 3-part series. Comment if you guys have any requests on what you like to hear. Maybe a book, maybe top 5 book recommendations. I don't know. There's a lot of ideas that I got, but this is going to be a 3-part series, so back to back to back. And go ahead and share this with a friend as well. It takes a couple seconds. That one friend that you know that this is going to add value to, just send it to him. Don't ask him if you want to. Just send it to him. It's going to help us grow to the top. And as always, stay tuned for next week for part 2 on the next 7 habits of highly influential leaders. You know, next 7 laws, let's say that, next 7 laws of leadership. So until then, as always, let's get after it. Peace.